Hi artists! This week we have a book called Tidy. And tidy means to keep things clean and neat. And this little badger, he's kind of like a groundhog. He lives underground. He's going to clean up the forest. And it goes like this. Deep in the forest lived a badger named Pete, who tidied and cleaned and kept everything neat. He tidied the flowers by checking each patch and snipping off any that didn't quite match. He tidied the fox by grooming his fur. He untangled each knot in each twig and each burr. A burr is like a pricker. He tidied the birds from the big to the small by brushing their beaks and then bathing them all. He picked up stray sticks and he swept and he rubbed. He polished the rocks and he scoured and scrubbed. So when the leaf fell, well, guess what he did? That's going to be a lot to pick up. Pete tidied up. He put them all in a bag. But he still wasn't happy. Now the trees looked bare and scrappy. And so, to make it look neat, Pete undertook a mighty feat. He dug up every single tree. Ooh, that's not a good idea. But then it rained and there was a flood. Guess what that made? A lot of mud. Pete called in the diggers, he called in the mixers, he called in the concrete, the rakers and fixers. No mud, no leaves, no mess, no trees. Perfectly tidy and perfectly neat. This forest is practically perfect, said Pete. Ah, I'm hungry, he thought. I deserve a treat. So he hunted around for something to eat, but the beetles and worms that he usually found were under the concrete deep in the ground. And so Pete decided to go home instead. He couldn't have dinner, so he'd go straight to bed. But when he arrived and took out his key, there wasn't a door where the door used to be. It's under the concrete. And look at his underground apartment. You might be able to put that in your picture today. Later that night, Pete tossed and he turned. His belly was empty. It rumbled and churned. And he lay in his mixer, wide awake. And he started to think, oh, I made a mistake. And so, the very next morning when it got light, he set about trying to put everything right. Breaking up the concrete. That jackhammer looks like it's really vibrating. Then the animals came, from the strong to the weak, and they lent him a paw and a claw or a beak. Working together. They put everything back, like it's always been, but maybe less ordered and not quite as clean. And Pete, well, he promised to tidy up less. If he succeeded is anyone's guess. The forest is all back to normal. Happy ending. The end. Who liked that book?